Week 0 of the high school football season is over, and there's a lot to discuss. I'm Keith Barnes of the Post-Gazette, and once again, with my esteemed colleague Mike White, we will break down everything you need to know heading into Week 1 on the Vastity Xtra podcast here on the Post-Gazette's YouTube channel. We're going to be talking about East versus West. Has Eastern PA gotten past the western side of the state as far as football goes? The biggest takeaways from Week 0. And money. How big is it in high school sports right now? In our second segment, we'll get into the shining star of Week 0 and the ever-popular Post-Gazette Fantasy League. Finally, we'll wrap it up with our Pick 6 games of the week and predictions and the Where Are They Now segment. Sports fans, when the game's on, there's only one spot you need to be. Dave & Buster's in Homestead. Catch every play on massive HD TVs. Fuel up with fan favorites like wings and burgers, and keep the fun going with the latest games and ice-cold drinks. Whether it's happy hour, game day, or just a night out with friends, Dave & Buster's Homestead is where Pittsburgh goes to eat, drink, play, and watch sports. Proud sponsor of the Post-Gazette Sports WPIAL channel. Now let's dig in. Mike, we're going to start off talking about East versus West. Has Eastern PA dwarfed the western side of the state in football? Take it away.
Well, it's our first segment talking about, right?
It's talking about, so let's talk about it.
You know, I think this comes up because of what happened this week and with Salle College High School beating Central Catholic 23-6. Central came in with a big reputation, Salle College from the eastern part of the state. And, you know, the question is, are the beasts in the East nowadays, Keith? Is Eastern PA football better than Western PA football? And maybe you have an opinion. I thought I had an opinion. If you look at last year, Central had a good team last year also, and St. Joe's Prep, we know what they've done. They beat them in the state championship. So who is better? I mean, LaSalle College really kind of handled Central last week. I saw most of that game was there. The Philly Catholic League, you know what? They've proved some pretty good teams. So who is better? Well, I think you have to look at some numbers.
And I'm with you on this. I looked at some numbers too.
You go this way. There are 317 schools in the PIAA in the East, 236 in the West. So they have more. The East has 85 state championships since they started in 1988. The West has 89. So what does that say? But maybe you have to look at more recently. WPIAL is the largest district in the state, 121 teams. They have 58 titles. They should have more. They're the biggest district. Right. But no other district is as big. But if you put District 1, which is suburban Philadelphia, District 3, Harrisburg area, and down further in the Lancaster place like that, that's 162 schools. And they have 26 state titles. District 12 alone has 41 of them. That is the Philadelphia Catholic and Public League. So, you know, St. Joe's has 9 championships. Archbishop Wood has 6 championships. So here's what I say. When you crunch all those numbers, and I've been thinking about this, and I was thinking about last week watching LaSalle kind of, you know, not have their way with Central, but they kind of dominated that game. I think in the biggest class, definitely, the East is better. They have more depth of teams in the biggest class, and they should. They have more further on that, though. They have more teams. They have more teams, though, in the East.
But if you take it down even further, if you take it down to the lowest level, look at Class 1A. No team has won a Class 1A title since 2017 when Jeanette did it. No team has won Class 2A since.
You mean the WPIAL? Right. No WPIAL team. No WPIAL team. And no WPIAL team has won a AA title since Steel Valley's team that Mercy ruled everybody in 2016. So between the two, you're looking at almost 20 years between Class 2A and Class 1A combined where they haven't won a title. So it's not just in 6A. It's in the lower classes as well where the Eastern schools are doing a lot better than the West. But, Keith, I think you have to look at this one considering. But as a whole, is Western Pennsylvania better? I think that definitely, you know, Philadelphia Catholic League tips this whole thing in 6A. And I think you have to look at this. You have to look at this. So many of those titles in the East in single A, what used to be single A,
Southern Columbia,
A, but Southern Columbia, now St. Joe's Prep and the Philadelphia Catholic League. I mean, they're better than anything the WPIAL has. And, you know, they have more teams in the Catholic League, more big Catholic League teams. But I think as a whole, I don't know if you just look at those state championships. I think as a whole, it's probably a wash. I came away the other night saying, boy, maybe the East is better than the West. But I think when you put and look at the numbers, I think maybe the West has more depth of top teams.
I would say this.
Where, you know what I'm saying? Where the East, Southern Columbia, St. Joe's Prep, Archbishop Wood and St. Joe's Prep, they've got them all those big titles in 6A and 5A. So, yeah, I think the East is better in 6A, but they have some powerhouses. I think from 4A down, I think maybe the depth of ours is as equal to the East.
Here's where I kind of look at it. When you look at the population center, Pittsburgh's about a tenth the size of Philadelphia.
Exactly.
And to be as competitive as it is, the football is probably just as good, but the numbers are just so – it's like a 1A team playing a 6A team. You've got a great 1A team with a lot of talented players, but the 6A team is going to dominate. And that's kind of how it is with Philadelphia and the WPIAL, because you have so many kids in these Philadelphia schools as compared to the Western Pennsylvania schools. So it's – in a way, it's a wash, but I think competitively, with a competitive balance, the WPIAL might be better. But when it gets to that big stage, when you've got those loaded schools, it's going to go against the WPIAL schools and in the lower classifications as well.
I'm not just talking about WPIAL. I'm talking about Western PA in general.
Yeah.
So what do you say? What you talking about? What do you say?
At the end of the day, I think the East is better. The East is better because the numbers are better, because the bulk of the schools are there. It's just the way the geography is. There are going to be certain teams that are going to win, certain teams that are going to win championships. But overall, I think as you see it, it's going to progress a lot like basketball has, where the Eastern schools dominate the Western schools.
Well, that's been in basketball for a while. I don't think that's been the same in football. My take is, yeah, that Catholic League, since they've come in, they're better in the biggest classification overall. More quality teams and more dominating teams, because you just look at St. Joe's Prep and what they've done. And but I think maybe from 4A down, maybe even 5A, I think the depth of quality teams might be the same. So
you might be right.
I guess we didn't really.
But I still like what the Philadelphia Leagues are doing. I mean, that's kind of the thing, is they've been able to dominate, and if you're winning championships, that's kind of where everybody.
But you're right. They have a lot more kids. They have a lot more kids.
Yeah.
All right. Let's go on. Let's move on to our second subject here and talking about, right? Biggest takeaways. It's only week 0, but anyhow, biggest takeaways, Keith, from that first week of the season. By the way, I'm not calling it week 0 anymore. Can we stop that?
It should be week 1. It should be. Everybody plays anyway. But, it's because the PIAA doesn't really count the games. The WPL doesn't put the games out there. So, I don't know. Maybe they should change the terminology. Or, I don't know. Anyway, the first week of the season, as we look at it, my biggest takeaway is Class 2A. And up and down, we kind of talked about this before the season started, that this might be the weakest classification in the WPIAL. And I don't think the week 0 games, or whatever you want to call them, I don't think it did anything to take away from that. When you got the first 2 teams, thank you for the word, because I was looking for it. The top 2 teams both lost. And I mean, what North Catholic did to Seton LaSalle was just terrible, as far as I'm concerned. I mean, I know it's a 4A team and a 2A team, but when you go out there and you're the number 1 team in a classification, I know you're playing up 2 classes, but
no. North Catholic's 3A. North Catholic's 3A.
I'm sorry. Even so, you're still playing up in classification, and you couldn't make a game of it. You should be able to at least make a game of it for the top team in the classification.
Yeah, but they lost all their best players.
That's the other thing too. I mean, when you talk about transfers, but you're still number 1. They knew that was a possibility they could lose those players, and they were still number 1. And there's that problem, and this is the weakness of Class 2A. And it's not just them. Steel Valley lost to a 1A team. Granted, Westinghouse is a great team, but Steel Valley still lost to a Class 1A team.
Oh, I'm with you. 2A is not very good at all.
No.
But I think Seton LaSalle was number 1 by default. I really do.
Yeah. I think of course, with everything going on, it was what it was. But I think 2A is just shown just how weak the entire classification is. It's going to be interesting to see how this plays out for the rest of the season, but it's not a strong class. That's my takeaway.
That's your biggest takeaway from the first week?
From the week 0, yeah.
Oh, first week, not week 0.
First week.
All right, my biggest takeaway, I'm going to talk about couple individuals first, because you know what, Keith? To pass is divine. Now, I'm not going to get all religious with you here, but I'm going to talk about.
Amen, brother.
There you go. Evan Devine from Bethel Park. Where did this kid come from? He threw for 389 yards in his first varsity start for Bethel Park, and they ruined Don Barclay's debut as the coach of Seneca Valley. Threw for 389 yards. Keith, this kid wasn't even playing football last year. He wasn't even on the team. He had to give up the sport, and he threw for 389 yards. And then the running back, another takeaway, hey, people shouldn't have slept on the Blackhawks maybe. David Dennison, he was the second back last year to Javon Moore, who kind of came out of nowhere and ran for over 2,000 yards. And what did David Dennison rush for? He rushed for well over 200 yards. So my biggest takeaway is maybe we shouldn't have slept on Bethel Park, but this kid Devine, what a story he is. Didn't even play football last year, throws for 389 yards in his first game, and he takes over.
Crazy.
You know, Phil Peckich had a really good team last year, and they lost a lot from that team. And now that they have another quarterback, I mean, Tanner Piper threw for over 6,000 yards in his career. Now that they have a really good passing game again, they play this week against Mars. That should be a little interesting test for them too. But boy, you have to be impressed by what they did against Seneca Valley. And remember, to pass is divine. And real quick, one other takeaway. How good is Newcastle?
That was a surprise.
Shut out Penn Hills, who is supposed to be a pretty decent team. They shut out
Is this
Penn Hills.
Newcastle 1995 or something like that?
Is it what?
Is it Newcastle 1995 again?
I'm not ready to go that far. But or is it with a couple when they went to the finals? With Geno Stone, who's now in the NFL. But they took steps last year with Fred Mazzocco forward, his first year as coach. Mm-hmm. And I know they have Kai Cox, that's a really good basketball player. He's apparently really good football. They have some younger kids. Do we have to look out for Newcastle now? I think they have a really interesting game this week against Hopewell. We'll talk about that more. But, hey, the Hurricanes, maybe there's a hurricane warning. Those are my two big takeaways.
It's good to see Newcastle coming back, that's for sure. Okay, let's take it into the next one. Mike, you did a huge story this week on the money going through high school sports and the NIL money and the colleges and what they're paying some of these guys. You know, how extensive is this at this point in time with the money situation? Because I
think it needs explained. It's not the money going through high school sports. It's the money being offered to some big-time football players, and they are also basketball. I did a big story. It took me a while. What I did was we have 14 kids who have committed to Power 4 conference schools this year so far, which is more than we've had recently. And I talked to, 8 or so of them just about this whole thing. I went into it, Keith, without any idea if I'd get a story or B, what the story would be. And I found, sometimes as reporters and writers, we're supposed to maybe educate the public. And I think what the kids told me and opening the public's eyes as to how much money is being offered to these top line. I'm not talking even top 50 players. I'm talking 4-star players. And our kids are good. Ashton, Blatt, and, Jay Timmons, 4-star players. Mm-hmm. But if you read the story, what I found was none of the kids wanted to tell me exactly what they're going to get next year. And they haven't signed contracts, but They did tell me, and I've found out from other people and sources, it is not uncommon, very average probably, to offer a kid who's going to be a freshman at a power conference school $100,000. He will get as a freshman. Now one kid told me who didn't want to be named and didn't want to name the school. He was offered $250,000 next year as a freshman by a school. Another kid told me he was offered close to $500,000, and he's not a skill position player. Keith, that is crazy, but it's the world we live in now. Where is it going to end? It's not going to end. That the genie's out of the bottle. And what people need to understand, it's not the NIL as much. It's the revenue sharing that the House settlement went, a court case, it goes into effect it went into effect this year. And what it is every Division I college can pay their players now on top of any NILs up to a little over $20 million total for all their sports teams. And what most colleges are doing, giving most of that money to the football team and the basketball team because they earn the most money. So that revenue,
that's where the revenue is. That's where you're going to make revenue, pay it out.
Well, I want to say two things. It's crazy, but it is what we live in now. And you're talking kids getting $200,000 at least. And if you're a 5-star quarterback, you might get $1 million.
Absolutely.
For players, it's not that they're good, but they might not even play much as a freshman.
You know,
it's
I see.
Crazy. And here's the last thing I'll say, and you can have your opinion on it. It is what it is right now. And that's the reality. But it's really hard to accept, I think, from the general public. And here's why. College costs a lot of money. And talk to any parent who has sent kids through college. Me being a parent, have sent 3 through college. And when you see tuition constantly being raised at colleges everywhere, and then these colleges are going to have to raise more money to pay these players revenue sharing and pay them $300,000, $200,000, even $100,000 as freshmen. Man, it's hard to accept. It's hard to accept. It's really hard to fathom. I shouldn't have said it's hard to accept, but it's fans are still going to go to games. It's been proven, but man, it's unbelievable.
Well, this is what I'm going to parlay off of this, because what I see happening is, and you're starting to see a little bit of this now, is you're seeing agents getting more and more involved. Even if
there's no question.
There's no question. I can see agents, what they're going to do is they're going to try to group their players. They're going to go try to get these 6th, 7th, 8th grade players that are already starting to get offers, and they're going to try to put them together. And I can see some agent with an idea in their mind saying, I'm going to buy an apartment complex. And I'm going to say, look, you come play at such and such school in this district. I'll pay for your housing. You sign a contract with me for X amount of dollars. When you go to college, I get 10%, whatever it is, of your signing. And you play for this team. You play for this coach. You play against the best. And I'm going to get you the best deal possible when you get out of high school. And I know it sounds crazy. But if you do it early enough, you can avoid the WPIAL and PIAA getting involved in the public level. And you can have all of your players sitting there and just have them all nested together. You can build them a nice training facility in the basement and house the families. It's a perk.
Well,
I'm not saying it'll happen, but I'm saying it's a possibility.
To be eligible in the WPIAL, though, Keith, you can't, that person has to become the guardian of those kids.
No. You move
the
family with the kid and have them live in an apartment. Yeah.
Yeah, well, I can tell you this.
I can see it happening. I mean,
I can tell you this much.
I'm not saying next week, next month, next year, but
I won't name the player. I won't name the player, but he's no longer in this area. But supposedly an agent got him to live with him or in his area, and he's no longer in Pennsylvania playing. I won't name the player.
I can see that happening more and more.
But the problem
family
is
lives there, and that's it.
The problem is with the agents. You've got a lot of these guys come out of nowhere, and they prey on kids that maybe don't have a lot of guidance at home, and they are not. You got a lot of them that are not certified agents, but they want that kid, and they'll tell them they'll get him a good deal. They'll get him a good deal. They'll get him into college, and I know colleges don't want to deal with these guys that aren't real agents, but it's like AAU basketball now.
Exactly.
You got to deal with them. And it's a mess. It's a mess, but I don't see it getting any better.
The problem is that this has been coming down the pike for 50 years. The NCAA saw it coming. The agents saw it coming. Everybody saw it coming, but nobody had a plan in place for it. And nobody's thought it through. And it's going to get ugly before it gets better. That's just how it works. That's just the way things like this work. When the money gets involved, it's just going to get uglier and uglier.
I don't know if it will get better, because once money's involved, it's hard to put the genie back in the bottle.
Absolutely. All right. Well, That's it for our first segment. Make sure you subscribe to the Post-Gazette WPIAL channel on YouTube. And we'll be back for our second segment here. We're going to start off with our Post-Gazette Fantasy League. And boy, did Mike kill me last week. We'll be back.
Well, the first week of the season is complete. And who were the guys who stood out in that first week? I'm Mike White of the Post-Gazette, along with Keith Barnes of the Post-Gazette. We're here for another segment here on the Varsity Xtra podcast on the Post-Gazette Sports channel on YouTube. Like us on, subscribe to us, definitely. Like us on Spotify, which is new and it's been about to become wildly popular, judging from what everybody's saying. So the second segment here, talking shining stars from that first week, and I'll update who we get this week on the Post-Gazette Fantasy League. Keith, shining stars, who was your shining star from that first week?
Well, my shining star is obvious. It was Kemon from McKeesport. I mean, what he did against Delaware Valley was just absolutely incredible. I mean, come out, take the opening kickoff back 98 yards for a touchdown. That was eye-popping. The next two times he touched the ball, he went, I believe, 53 and 80 yards for a touchdown. 3 times he touched the ball, 3 times he hit the end zone in the first quarter of that game. Finished with 13 carries for 292 yards, 5 total touchdowns. 3 of the touchdowns on the ground were at least 50 yards or more. He's just an absolute stud. Everything he does on the football field is incredible. You can see why a lot of people have him as the number 1 rated running back in his junior class and why Penn State wanted him so badly. He's just an amazing kid, a humble kid, hard worker. Head coach Matt Miller from McKeesport absolutely loves this kid. And what's not to like? He's just, everything about him is just stand out.
Well, the thing I found interesting about him, Keith, is I talked to a coach who saw him play in a scrimmage. And he's been around. I trust his coach, and he said, I've seen a lot of the great ones. He mentioned Terrell Pryor. LeVar Arrington was one of the best, and Russell Shell. He said this kid might be the best running back he's ever seen. And I think what really makes him stand out this year is he's gotten even bigger, and he looks like a man. That body he has, it is something else. And I just want to point out a little stat on him that I looked up. For his career now. Now, he doesn't have that many carries, but he has 26 yards, 2,426 yards. His yards per carry average is 12.6. 12.6.
Yeah.
Really special, really special. All right.
Well, he was over 20 on Saturday, let's put it that way.
Yeah, he cast the spell on many people this year.
Absolutely.
Oh, yeah. All right, here we go. My shining star is Nolan DiLucia, the quarterback for Peters Township, a senior. He's been good for 2 years, and I say he's a shining star this year. There were kids who threw for more yards than him, but he was still 14 of 21 for 252. And he moved into the top 20 all-time leading passers in WPIAL history. He now has 62.92. Now, Keith, he's going to Villanova. There have only been 7 quarterbacks who have thrown for 8,000 yards in their career in WPIAL history. I think he has a decent chance to become the 8th. I mean, he only needs about 1,700 more yards, and he's thrown for over 2,000 the last couple years, the last 2 years. So I think he has a real good chance at that. Nolan DiLucia, big game this week. He goes against Kemon.
Absolutely.
Right. And we'll talk about that later.
Game. I think this is going to be a really interesting game because of the fact that, McKeesport.
We'll talk about that later.
We'll talk about it later, but I think it's going to be an interesting game to see what he does against that McKeesport defense.
Okay, but I want to mention one other guy. Another, a shining star. You can be a shining star in a loss. Tristan Tavares of Norwin. They lost a close one to Penn Trafford late in the game. They thought they had a touchdown, but they fumbled. Tristan fumbled, but he had 336 yards offense, 203 rushing, and a little over 130 passing. That's pretty good against a usually Penn Trafford team that's pretty good. And I think he's one of the more underrated players in WPIAL. I'm not saying he's a big Division I recruit, but 2 years ago as a sophomore, he led the entire WPIAL in passing yardage in the regular season. That doesn't happen very much for a sophomore. Tristan Tavares, shout out to you for a shining star.
Well, losing him last year really hurt Norwin when they were trying to make the playoffs. And I mean, making the playoffs in 6A is not easy anyway, but losing a kid like him late in the year did not help their cause at all. So it's nice to see him back at full strength this year.
All right, let's move on to our Post-Gazette Fantasy League. We pick every week a quarterback, running back, receiver, and a kicker. And it's only for points. How many points they scored, add them up. You get to pick 4, I get to pick 4, and we can't pick the same player, neither of us, the rest of the year.
Nope.
And the first week is in the books, and I win.
Yeah, he did.
I win. It was close, although we don't know how many touchdowns Samir Crosby had, the quarterback from Greensburg-Central, who you had. But even if he was scored every point, I still win, so I'm 1-0.
Yeah, he wins.
And my big guy, who did it for me, I said it last week. Were you when you were a kid? When you were a kid, or when even not that long ago, did you ever see that doll Stretch Armstrong?
Yeah.
Did you ever? You stretch him.
Yeah.
He's rubber, and you just stretch him. That's what this kid is. James Armstrong from Hopewell High School, quarterback, and he's stretched into many different ways. A passer, a thrower, and he's stretched into basketball. He's stretched into baseball. Stretch Armstrong, my guy for Hopewell, only a sophomore. I think, and he has a couple of Division I offers already. He had 4 touchdowns last week. He threw for 4, ran for 1. He was my big reason I won.
Yes,
right.
He was. Congrats to you. I concede.
Ready to go on this week?
Absolutely.
All right. Who we got this week in PGFL? Let's go first. Quarterback. Who wants to go first? You want to go first?
I'll go first. You went first last week. I get to go first this week. My quarterback is Ethan Hellman. I'm going to go Ethan Hellman from Upper St. Clair. He had a big game last week, and
Upper St. Clair.
Yes, he did. He's got Cam McMillan coming up, and I'm not sold on the Big Max yet this year, so I think he's going to have a big game. I talked to Mike Junko today. He talked about how important Hellman is to that offense, how they're going to rely on him a lot more this season. And if the first game is any indication, when he threw for over 200 yards and 3 touchdowns, he could have a big game against the Big Max this week.
All right, my choice at quarterback is Mr. Gabe Jenkins, the dual threat guy to Monty Christian. He ran for over 200 yards.
Ran for over 200 last week.
He's not a great passer, but he'll score. And you know what? He might score a lot this week because guess what? They play Beaver Falls, boy, has that team fallen. They lost again to Blackhawk, but I'm going to take Gabe Jenkins, my quarterback. All right, I'll go first to running backs. I am taking Mr. Tyler Eber from Thomas Jefferson. What did he score last week? 5 or 6?
You undercut me.
Oh, I got you, huh?
You got me.
Now they play Central Valley, who's still pretty good. I mean, Central Valley's always good, and they had a tough loss last week to Moon-Montour. Things are not going to be that easy this week for Thomas Jefferson, who just manhandled Baldwin like most teams do. But Tyler Eber, he's my pick for running back this week.
All right, my pick for running back, Michael Ruffin of Clairton. Look, they didn't have a great game running the ball last week. Of course, they were playing a Monty Christian. But this week, they might have a little bit of an easier time against Sarah Catholic. Not saying anything about my Eagles, but yeah, I think Clairton's going to tear them up pretty good, and I think Ruffin's going to have a huge game for the Bears. And I think the Bears are going to be in a mood to be Bear-like after last week and losing the way they did against the Saints. So yeah, I say Michael Ruffin from Clairton. Okay,
on the receiver here in the PGFL Post-Gazette Fantasy League. Whose turn to go first? Yours? I know who you're going to pick. I know it.
No,
go ahead.
Don't.
Yes, I do. Go ahead.
Gabe Hahn from Mars.
Oh.
You don't know who I was going to pick.
I thought you were going to pick somebody else. I'll tell you who I thought you were going to pick, and I'm going to pick him instead.
Go ahead.
Gabe Hahn. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, Gabe Hahn's mine. Go ahead. Who you got?
They play Bethel Park, though, although Gabe Hahn's really good. He's really good. I'm taking Demetrius Cosby from Summit Academy.
Yeah,
Summit Academy.
I was close on him. I was real close on him.
Who is Demetrius Cosby? He led the WPIAL in receptions last week with 10 from Summit Academy. And that's a school for adjudicated youth. You call it a reform school for adjudicated youth. But they have a new team every year, new players every year. He had 10 pass receptions last week. And I think He must be doing something. I think I forget who they play this week, but I think he might.
They played Fraser last week. I know that for sure.
Yes,
I think they're New Brighton this week.
You're right. You're right. And New Brighton's not great. That's why I took him. So
Absolutely.
we go to kicker. I'm first. I am going a Trasket, Tristan Josephic. Is that how I pronounce his last name? From Norwin High School. 4 extra points and a field goal last week for Norwin in their loss. They play this week, I think, against Pittsburgh-area. Tristan is my man.
Now, my question to you is, does the person have to be a pure kicker or just the person who happens to kick extra points?
No, you can pick somebody. You can pick somebody who might be like a running back or something, but his points that he scores a touchdown or whatever don't count. It's just
that's where you got me.
No, it's not fair. It's just kicking points.
That's why I had to ask, because I would have taken Caleb Colebrook from Menneson, because that's a lot of points right there, and he happens to be their kicker. But no, I'm going to take Sam Wessel from Thomas Jefferson.
Okay. Yeah, they'll. I think they're going to score some points. They're not going to score as many as they did against Baldwin against Central Valley, but they'll put up some points. All right. That is our second segment here on the Vastity Xtra podcast on the Post-Gazette Sports YouTube channel. We still have more to come, and our Where Are They Now and our predictions coming up for the top 6 games, our pick 6, here with Keith and Mike White. Stay tuned with us for more.
And we're back here on our PG Varsity Extra podcast here on the Post-Gazette YouTube channel, sponsored by Dave & Buster's. I'm here with Mike White, and I'm Keith Barnes, and let's jump into our third segment here. What are we going? Let's talk about predictions first.
Predictions,
our,
pick 6,
our
our pick 6
games
segment.
to watch.
Pick 6, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, let's first start with who did better last week.
Oh, come on. You just want to brag.
I was 4-2. You were 3-3. So I've got a 1-game lead. 3-3 is not bad for you, Keith. 3-3, 500.
Yeah.
Not bad for someone like you.
Yeah.
The pick 6 for this week. Let's start off with a game that I put on the list. It may not get a lot of attention, but I think it's a really interesting game in the lower class. Mohawk-Laurel. They both won last week, rather impressively. I think they're both pretty decent teams. Who do you like?
I like Laurel in an upset.
I don't think it would be that big of an upset.
No, I don't think it would be that big of an upset either. But right now we have Mohawk ranked pretty highly right now. Laurel is unranked, and for some reason Laurel just seems to always play extremely well. I think they could come out and come away with a minor upset win. So I'm taking the Sparties.
I'll go Mohawk. My man Bobby Fadden, the multi-sport. Is he golfing again this year, Keith?
I'm not sure. I haven't asked him.
Mohawk. What's that?
I didn't ask him.
He has to be. He made the WPIAL championships last year in golf. I talked to him. He had one day a day of a game last year.
Yeah.
He played a golf match. Usually on a day of a game, they don't do that. But he played in a golf match the day of the game. Then he went to the football game. He's a really good player, really good athlete. I think he could be a difference in this game. All right, next game here on pick 6, Moon-Montour. This is a 5A team against a 4A team. I'll go first on this one. Moon, late touchdown last week to beat Trinity on the road. Montour, nice win. Young team. Looks like they have a quarterback who's pretty decent. Again, they beat Central Valley on the road. Boy, Moon didn't score many points last week against Trinity, and that kind of concerns me a little bit. But I'm going to say, teams make the biggest improvement. Coaches will tell you this from the first to the second week. I think Moon will make improvement offensively. I say they win this game.
I'm still torn on this one. I really am, because I think Lucera's done a really outstanding job putting this Montour team together really fast. But Moon's one of those teams everybody seems to talk about him, and you got to wonder. So I'm going to go with the Tigers.
All right, you going Moon also. All right,
I'm
next game here. 4A against 5A. Mars at Bethel Park. Mars, an impressive win last week at Beaver. Bethel, we talked about earlier in the Varsity podcast about Mr. Evan Devine. The pass is divine for Bethel Park. This game is at Bethel Park. Who do you like?
I like Mars. I like Mars. I think what they did last week kind of showed me that they're going to be a contender this year, especially in that conference. I mean, aside from McKeesport, I don't see anybody really kind of challenging the Tigers this year. So I can see the plans kind of building towards that. And if they beat Bethel Park, I think it's a great step forward for them. So I'm gonna take the Planets.
I really think the key to this game, run defense. You've got a quarterback, Evan Devine for Bethel. We've mentioned before. He didn't play football last year. He threw for 389 yards in last week's game against Seneca Valley. But they have David Dennison, who ran for well over 200 yards. He's the number one back this year. And Bethel lost a lot. And I think Mars is pretty good. But I think if Bethel runs the ball, they win this game. And I think they will. They win this game. Although I don't think it's going to be a blowout like last year.
Oh, I think it's going to be a really close game. That's why I think either team can pull it out. That's why I'm saying Gabe Heim's going to catch the game-winning touchdown in this one.
Ooh,
at least that's my pick.
Okay. All right. Next game here on Pick 6. We've got Newcastle. They shocked a lot of people, including me last week. Not so much that they won, but they shut out Penn Hills at Hopewell, a team that has really been not very good the last few years, but they played a lot of young kids last year, and they've got Stretch Armstrong. James Armstrong at quarterback. I'll go first on this one. Oh, boy. I'm going to take Newcastle showed me something last week with that defense. I'm going to take Newcastle.
I'm with you on this one. I think a Red Hurricane is going to blow through Hopewell this week.
Although, don't be surprised. If Armstrong plays like he did that first week, Hopewell's going to win this game. All right, last two games, two really good ones. Really good ones. First, we'll go with Pine-Richland versus Central Catholic. It's at Carnegie Mellon Friday night. Central loses the first game again this year. They lost last year to St. Francis Academy. This year, they lose to LaSalle College. Last year, they lost to Pine-Richland. Do they lose again this year, that second game? What do you say, Keith Barnes?
Not this year. Not this Central team. If Central really is the team that's going to not only win the WPIAL but win the state, this is a game that they have to win. This is a must-win for them.
No, it's not.
There's no doubt about it. This is the game where they have to either establish themselves as last week being a one-off and the start of what they're going to do, or they have to establish themselves, or they're just going to be like last year, where they'll get to the state semis and maybe to the finals, but won't be able to finish it off. Wow. This is a game they have to win.
After two games, no, they don't. They don't have to win.
I think they do. I think they do.
They're going to be in a championship. They're going to be.
I know. This is the only game I think they have to win for their own sakes. I don't think they want to hear. They want to hear the whole thing they did last year about they lost to Pine-Richland. They lost to Pine-Richland. They heard it all the way to winning the championship when they were tired of hearing about it. This is an extremely skilled team that should win this game. So I'm taking the Rams.
Pine-Richland.
I'm taking the Vikings.
Pine-Richland is really good too.
Yes.
And they beat Ben Roethlisberger's team last week, crushed them. I don't even know how they are, Findlay, Ohio. But who am I going to take in this game? I'll tell you the key to the game going to be quarterbacks. And that's always the key to any game. But Owen Herrick was a sophomore last week. He should get was a sophomore his first start last week. And he didn't do bad, but, LaSalle College, they kind of took it to Central. And I think the key to the game was their quarterback, who's going to Missouri, is a seasoned veteran, a senior. And that was really a big difference in the game. Central needs better play. Owen Herrick has to do better, and they have to run the ball better. They've got that big offensive line. They couldn't run the ball last week. And Pine-Richland's defense is very good. And they have a seasoned quarterback in Ubi Strader, who threw for over 200 yards last week. He has two good receivers in Timmons. I think because of the quarterback play, I think Pine-Richland wins on the road.
There you go.
All right, last game here in Pick 6. Our game of the week in the Post-Gazette this week, game you'll be at, Keith. It is Peters Township against McKeesport. Great game. Really interesting. It's a non-conference game. You've got Peters with they have a lot of talent. They were in the finals last year in 5A. I mean, McKeesport's in 4A. They were in the finals in 4A, losing to Thomas Jefferson. And they've got the great Kemon spell. Had a tremendous game. You saw him last week. You go first. Who do you like, Peters Township, McKeesport?
all deference to Kemon Spell and Matt Miller, I got to go with Peters Township in this one. The one thing that I took out of that game last week was what Delaware Valley was able to do in its passing game, in its play-action passing game, because they were able to move the ball extremely well against that defense. Now, McKeesport was able to stop them in the red zone and made a lot of key stops. Peters Township is one of those teams that's going to be able to finish plays. Like you said, they got Nolan DiLucia, who I think is one of the most underrated quarterbacks in the WPIAL, and Lucas Shanafel caught 2 touchdown passes for them last year. I think with that combination in tight, they're going to be able to take advantage of what McKeesport was not able to do last week. And that's why I think Peters Township is going to win this game.
It's a really interesting game, I think. Matt Miller's son's a new quarterback at McKeesport. He threw – I guess he threw 7 or 8 times last week and did fairly well. But I think Kemon Spell is going to have a gigantic game for them to win. And I think the interesting matchup here is those 2 defensive ends for Peters Township. Lucas Shanafelt going to Stanford, and my man Reston Lehman going to Pitt. I've really enjoyed getting to know him, and I think he's really, really good. And the thing about them, what will they do at the defensive ends? Will it be not? I'm sure it will not be easy to get wide on them, but McKeesport likes to run through the tackles a lot too. And Kemon Spell
did a lot of his damage between the tackles.
Oh yeah, he can do that. So the interior line of Peters Township, I think, might be a key, and also those inside linebackers. But here's another key: Reston Lehman and Lucas Shanafelt, they're defensive ends, but both of them caught 4 passes last week. And you said Shanafelt had 2 touchdowns. They're playing tight ends, sometimes 2 tight ends. So they're using those 2 guys, and I don't blame them. They should. They're really good athletes. Right. And I think the key to this game is that interior defensive line for Peters, and also the secondary of McKeesport against the passing game of Peters. I'm going Peters on the road.
We agree. Finally.
Yep. Did we disagree on anything? We disagreed on Pine. We disagreed on Pine.
I think we disagreed on almost everything.
You're right. We disagreed on a few.
Hey, you know what? It's the only way to keep it interesting, because if we agree on everything, then what's the point?
Okay. Last subject here on the Post-Gazette High School Sports Show here on the Post-Gazette Sports Channel. Don't forget, subscribe to us. We've started this year. We're on Spotify. Subscribe to us, like us, and get us rolling. And it seems like people like this, so we'll come to you every week with all this stuff. And the last thing is our wildly popular also Where Are They Now segment. Might be a player in a different sport, might be a coach. Where are they now? Maybe we ran into Keith. Do you have somebody for Where Are They Now?
I ran into Mike Logan. He's a great guy. Former McKeesport alum, was calling the Clairton and Monty Christian game for KDK for their game of the week with Matt Fargo last week, and did a great job with that. He's a really nice guy, and he's moving more into the broadcast thing. Now, I don't think, if I'm not mistaken, I don't believe he's calling the McKeesport game this week. But, there's a possibility you're going to hear his voice as the color analyst for a lot of the Friday night games on KDK.
Well, you know what, Keith? I heard his voice Saturday on the golf course. At the AAU Bruins, girls basketball Bruins golf outing at Hannestown Country Club. All of a sudden, I'm on a hole, and here comes John Tate, the director of the Bruins, and Paul Zeiss runs that event. It's really a great thing to raise money for that aid. Here comes John Tate up to, I'm getting ready to tee off with Mike Logan in the cart and giving me all kind of crap. But I handed it back to him. So I saw Mike Logan Saturday on the golf course. He wasn't playing. He was just riding around in a cart giving people problems. So my Where Are They Now? I'm going to go with, one of them is not Where Are They Now, but I'm going to go with 2 people. First one, you remember William TuTu Ferguson at Woodland Hills, was known as TuTu. Went on great career at Woodland Hills, was a running back, really did some big things, went on to Pitt, did some good things at Pitt. I ran into him. He is now the director of security at Woodland Hills. He was there Friday night, TuTu Ferguson, at his old stomping grounds in Woodland Hills. And where are they now? I'm just saying, there was a sighting. It was scary to me. James Harrison, the former Steeler, his son is the starting middle linebacker at North Allegheny. He was at the game Friday night, North Allegheny, Woodland Hills. Where are they now? He was standing in the end zone before the game. I walked by and looked at him. Keith, I swear he could go play right now again. He had
he's in shape.
He had a tank top on, sleeveless. Those arms, it's just stunning because he's been out of the game for a while. Remind me of myself or you, the way his arms look. But James Harrison looks like he can still play, and he still has that scowl look on his face.
Absolutely.
I didn't go up to him and say anything, but that's where James Harrison, watching his son and looking as fit as ever.
Good stuff. Well, that's our show for this week. Please subscribe, follow along, check us out on Spotify. I'd like to thank Dave and Buster's for their sponsorship of this. And I'm Keith Barnes, the Post-Gazette with Mike White. Thank you for joining us on the Varsity Extra podcast for this week.
Thank you for checking out this content from Post-Gazette Sports. If you watch this video on YouTube, please like the video and subscribe to our channel. For all of the sports coverage the Post-Gazette has to offer, visit post-gazette.com.